brothers and sisters, thank God for this time, this opportunity to share the word together. I want us to have an encouragement for the day, a reading for the day, so that we can encourage one another. I want us to talk a little about worship, because sometimes we do worship and we give adoration to God, because that is what worship is, giving an adoration to God, or rather expressing reverence, or rather for a deity or to God. So we want to talk a little about worship, because this is what has been there since the Old Testament, the New Testament. We talk about worship. So ever since the beginning, man has been created a worshiping being. He has been created a worshiping being because even since in the Garden of Eden, it is God who was giving out authority, and man was to submit, man was to adore, man was to express reverence to whatever that God was instructing man. In the book of Leviticus chapter 10 verse 1 to 3, we see Nadab and Abihu, which are important examples of on how it regards to rendering worship to God, because they are examples of people who worshipped God. Yes, they offered their worship to God, but it was not in the way that was pleasing to God. So they were instructed by God to go and offer their burnt offerings, but they did not do it in the way that was pleasing to God. Let us have a reading here. It says, Then Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, each took his censer, put fire in it, put censer on it, and offered a profane fire before the Lord, and which he had not commanded them, because God had commanded them and instructed them on the way they need to offer their offerings and the fire that they need to offer to God. So in verse number 2 says, So fire went out from the Lord and devoured them, and they died before the Lord, because they did not follow the instructions of the Lord. So worship is rendering expression or feeling. You render adoration, you render a reverence to God or deity. So when you render adoration in the way that is pleasing to God, then your prayer, your worship will be accepted before God. So when they offered something that the Lord had not commanded, it was taken as a sign of disrespect for God's holiness, because God is holy and he needs to be worshipped in the way that he wants. It was taken as and they were written for our land, because when we read from those examples in the book of Leviticus, we see that we learn that the way we need to worship God the right way, that the way he has commanded us to do it. We are to be holy as children of God, just as he is holy. And so our holiness will determine on how our worship will be expressed to God, because it will also determine on how God is going to receive our worship, how God is going to respond to our prayers and our expression of adoration and reverence to him. So let us worship God in the way that is pleasing to him, and he will bless us. He will hear our worship, and he will listen to our prayers and give us whatever that we need according to our prayers. God bless you so much. Let the ancient words impart. We have come.